everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel. And welcome to our playthrough of Arkham Horror, the card game, where for this campaign we're going to be taking on the Dream Eaters campaign. Now, in this campaign, we're going to have two teams of investigators. In this case, the way I play, it's going to be two teams of two investigators. We're going to have one team of investigators that we send into the dream world, and we're going to leave one behind in the waking world. Now, I really enjoy this campaign because we get to dive into one of my favorite other worlds in the Cthulhu mythos, the Dreamlands. And I also like the idea of having essentially two campaigns running in parallel. I find that idea to be very interesting. So, we'll get to see more of that. I won't spoil too much about what we're going to run into in this campaign, but let's go ahead and meet the investigators for this campaign, and we'll start off with meeting the Dreamers. Here's our first investigator on the dream side, Harvey Walters. I'm not going to go over his deck in full. I'll link all the deck lists below in the video description box. Harvey's going to be the clue gatherer on the Dream Eater, on the dreaming side, and I'm using his starter deck with no changes. I'm also going to try to limit myself to only the upgrades that came with his starter deck, but I make no promises on that. So before I go into his personal cards, his investigator, signature, asset, and weakness, let me talk a little bit about the starter decks. So the starter decks are a complete deck of cards in the Arkham Horror card game. They're all ready to go. All you have to do is just open them, sleeve everything at level 0, and just start playing. It even comes with upgrades and an insert that will that'll show you how a suggested upgrade path, give you a list, kind of a little backstory on the investigators. I might do an unboxing on one unopened starter deck I've got, but I'll have to think about that a little bit. But anyway, I'm getting a little off track. Let's take a look at Harvey's signature card. So we'll start off with his investigator card. We see Harvey Walters, the professor. His stat line is 4 willpower or head. I use the two interchangeably. 5 lore or book. 1 combat or fist. 2 agility or foot. Again, I use those terms interchangeably. His reaction ability: after an investigator at your location draws 1 or more cards from their deck during the investigation phase, that investigator draws 1 card, limit once per round. His elder sign effect: +1, draw a card. Flavor text: I have experience dealing with these sorts of horrors. He's got 7 health and 8 sanity. Deck building restrictions on the back. Deck size of 30. Deck building options: Seeker cards level 0 to 5, Neutral cards level 0 to 5. All of the starter deck investigators, that would be Harvey Walters as the Seeker, Jacqueline Fine as the Mystic, Nathaniel Cho as the Guardian, Winifred Hamabach, I forgot what her last name is, as the Rogue, and Stella Clark, I believe. I wouldn't swear to her last name off the top of my head, as the Survivor. So they all will have the restriction to their respective classes. Harvey being Seeker, Jacqueline Mystic, and so on and so forth. Deck building requirements: these don't count toward the deck size. Vault of Knowledge, which is his signature card. I'll go over these next. Thrice Damned Curiosity, his personal weakness, and then a random basic weakness. Now, the deck actually did come with a basic weakness, which I'm going to use unchanged. But I won't go into that. I won't go into that right now. For now, let's take a look at his personal cards. First up is personal asset, Vault of Knowledge. It's a 3 cost to play, as you can see in the number in the upper left corner. For the cards you get on a commit, if you commit this card to a skill test, you get +1 head, or again will, +1 agility, and +1 question mark, which you can use for any stat you might need on the test. So let me talk a little bit about the difference between playing a card and committing it. I'll mention this again when I'm actually playing through the campaign. But the difference is, if you play the card, you get you get to use the text on the bottom, which I'll go through in a minute. If you commit a card to a skill test, you're basically discarding it to give the testing investigator whatever icons you see along this mid-left portion of the card. Then it goes into your discard pile when the test is over. So that's the rough difference between play and commit. Again, that'll probably make more sense when we actually go into the campaign. But Anyway, for the text on the bottom, so after you pay the experience cost to play it, or the resource cost to play it, this only goes in Harvey's deck. Your maximum hand size is increased by 2. Normally your hand size is 8. With this in play, your maximum hand size would be 10. As a reaction, after you successfully investigate, exhaust Vault of Knowledge, and choose an investigator at your location, that investigator draws a card. So, as you might see during this campaign, Harvey's going to draw through his deck very fast. But we don't want to draw through his deck too fast, because then we might end up getting punished by his personal weakness, Thrice Damned Curiosity. On a revelation, so it'll happen when you draw it, on a revelation, for every 3 cards in your hand, take a damage. So if we've been drawing, getting a full hand of cards, this comes up, this could potentially just kill us if we're not careful. But that'll do it for Harvey. Now let's take a look at his partner and the Monster Puncher on the Dream side. Here we are with the deck for Harvey's partner. Now, if you were to look at me and say, Phoenix Knight, this looks like a jumbled mess of cards, 99% of the time, I'd agree with you. Now, let me show you why. This is the 1% of time I'll tell you this is a somewhat cohesive deck. How cohesive remains to be seen. That's right. We're playing, Harvey's partner on the Dream side is Lola Hayes. Lola Hayes, by far the hardest investigator to play in the game, and you'll see why in a second. So, let's start with Lola's investigator card. She's the actress. 3s all the way around on willpower, lore, combat, and agility. Forced, after you draw your opening hand, you choose a role. Survivor, Guardian, Seeker, Rogue, Mystic, or Neutral. You can only play, commit, or trigger abilities on neutral cards or cards of your role. As a free action, you can switch your role, but that's once per round. As your Elder Sign, when you draw, so that's when you draw the Elder Sign out of the cast bag as part of a test. +2, you may switch roles. Perhaps this would be her big comeback as her flavor text. 6 health and 6 sanity. Alright, her deck building restrictions are deck size of 35 cards, deck building options, Survivor, Guardian, Seeker, Rogue, and Mystic cards level 0 to 5, neutral cards level 0 to 5, deck building requirements, these again don't count toward deck size, 2 copies of Improvisation, 2 copies of Crisis of Identity, 1 random basic weakness. As an additional requirement, your deck must include at least 7 cards from 3 different classes. And looking here, the 3 different classes I've chosen are Guardian, Rogue, and Survivor. The idea behind this deck is I'm trying to lean into her combat-oriented role. So I want to make sure she's able to fight no matter what role she's in. But I mentioned the class shifting earlier. So let me talk about this handy little gadget before I go too much further. So what this is, it's a class wheel that you can use for Lola. I bought this on Etsy once the idea for this campaign started to get into motion. So what you can do is you can rotate it around, and it'll show you it'll have an icon displaying each class. So what I'll be doing throughout the campaign is I'll be rotating this to show what class I'm in. Then, as you can see, it rotates its way through every class. So that'll be very handy. Whereas previously, the last time Lola was played in a campaign, the player playing Lola was stuck using different colored spin downs to denote her roles. But anyway, let's take a look at her basic cards. First, her 2 copies of her signature event this time. Improvisation. 0 cost to play, 2 question mark icons. Lola Hayes deck only. Fast, play only during your turn. Switch your role. Until the end of your turn, reduce the resource cost of the next card you play of your role by 3 and draw a card. So anything that replaces itself in the hand, I really like that. But unfortunately, with being able to fill any role comes the potential for a Crisis of Identity. On a revelation, Discard all cards you control of your current role. Then discard the top card of your deck. Switch your role to the class of the discarded card. If the discarded card is a weakness, switch your role to neutral. Flavor text: I've played so many roles, madness is to be expected. Indeed, very, very appropriate for the actress who can fill any role. But yeah, this campaign is going to be very challenging. So the other idea I had when I was trying to build the deck, actually I had two ideas. I was trying to lean into stat boosts as much as I could, static stat boosts, because you can only use any like reaction or fast action abilities as indicated by the swirly arrow or just the swirl on the card. So as an example, like on physical training, you can see that what looks like a swirl icon or a lightning bolt. I could only use that when I'm in a Guardian role with Lola. Similarly, on track shoes, focus. Similar with track shoes, I would get the +1 agility no matter what role I'm in, but I could only use the text on the bottom after you move. But before enemies at your new location engage you, exhaust it to test agility 3. If you succeed, move to a connecting location. If I'm not in a survivor role, I can't use that card. So that's going to be the challenge with Lola, trying to balance what role I need to be in and what card I can use from that. But anyway, that will do it for Lola. That'll do it for the Dreamers. Now let's go meet the allies they're leaving behind in the waking world. Say hello to the clue gatherer on the waking side, Ursula Downs. I've played her a lot before, but it's been a while, so I'm going to need a little bit of a memory refresher. So let's start off with a memory refresher on Ursula's Investigator card. Ursula Downs, the Explorer. Her stat line first is a 3 will, 4 lore, or intellect again, 1 combat, and 4 agility. That may come into play with plans later in the campaign, but I won't spoil that yet. As a reaction ability, after you move to a location, take an investigate action, limit once per round. Now, the thing to note about this is you're not limited to what investigate action you could take. So you could take an event that would give you an investigate. I don't think I have anything in the deck. I think I mostly am doing just basic investigate actions in this deck. But you could use, for example, a Rite of Seeking or a Clairvoyance or a Read the Signs. Something like that. Anything that gives you the investigate action in bold keywords, you would get that for free. But her Elder Sign effect, +1. After this test ends, you may move to a connecting location. Flavor text here. Discovery is easy. Understanding is the hard part. 7 health and 7 sanity. So now let's take a look at Ursula's deck building restrictions. Deck size of 30. Deck building options: Seeker cards level 0 to 5, Relic cards level 0 to 4, Neutral cards level 0 to 5. Deck building requirements that don't count toward deck size: Jake Williams is her signature asset, Call of the Unknown, and 1 random basic weakness. So let's take a look at her signature asset first. Let's take a look at Jake Williams. 3 resource cost to play, can commit for a lore and a question mark. The first move or investigate action you perform each turn does not provoke attacks of opportunity. As a reaction, after you reveal a location or put a new location into play, exhaust Jake Williams to draw a card. So Ursula is another one who can draw through her deck fairly quickly, although Jake is usually not the ally I'm looking for at the start of the game. Usually if I see him, I'll throw him back on a mulligan. 3 health and 2 sanity on Soak. But as an explorer, Ursula kind of has to hear the Call of the Unknown on occasion, and that's her basic weakness. As a revelation, put Call of the Unknown into play in her threat area. Forced, at the beginning of your turn, choose a location other than your location. When your turn ends, if you did not successfully investigate the chosen location this turn, take 2 horror and shuffle Call of the Unknown back into your deck. So that's a card that could come up again and again and keep punishing her. But that'll do it for Ursula. We won't hope. The idea is she'll get going quickly in the course of a campaign, but we'll have to play the campaign and see for sure. That'll do it for Ursula. Now let's go meet Ursula's Monster Puncher. Ursula's monster puncher in the waking world is Jenny Barnes, the dilettante. I like the way these two investigators fit together. I try to have a natural pairing of clue gatherer and monster puncher, but there's something about these two that fits very well together. And I should probably give you a heads up as well. Jenny's an investigator you're going to see a lot of on this channel. Not necessarily in the card game, but almost everywhere else in the Arkham files, you're going to see a lot of Jenny. But that's another story for another day. Let's go ahead and take a look at Jenny's investigator cards. We'll start off with her main investigator card. As we see, Jenny Barnes, the dilettante. 3s all across the board for her stat line, just like Lola. She collects 1 additional resource during each upkeep phase. Her Elder Sign effect, +1 for each resource you have, so it's not out of the question to end up passing a test with an Elder Sign by a ridiculous amount. So her flavor text, no more Miss Barnes from you. My friends call me Jenny. 8 health, 7 sanity. Deck building restrictions, deck size of 30, deck building options, rogue cards level 0 to 5, neutral cards level 0 to 5, up to 5 level 0 cards from any other class. More on that in a minute. Deck building requirements, these don't count toward deck size. Jenny's twin 45s, searching for Izzy, 1 random basic weakness. Now, the level 5 levels, up to 5 level 0 cards from any other class. There's a group of investigators called the Dunwich 5, named for the expansion that they all came out of, the Dunwich Legacy, that all have that same deck building rule. So they turn out to be very powerful investigators depending on how you build them. But we've got Jenny to work with for this campaign, so let's take a look at her signature asset. Jenny's twin 45s. A perfect fit. X to play, more on X in a minute. Commit, you can get 2 agility icons and a question mark, so anything you would need. Jenny Barnes deck only uses X ammo. Similar to her Elder Sign, this could come up with a lot of resources. Additionally, if you, as an action, spend 1 ammo to fight, you get +2 fight for this attack, and this attack deals +1 damage. So we can definitely do a lot of damage there. But Jenny came to Arkham for a very specific purpose, and it's reflected in her signature weakness. Searching for Izzy. She's searching for her sister, who supposedly got lost in Arkham, but that's more backstory for another time. As a revelation, attach searching for Izzy to the location farthest from you. 2 actions, investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, discard searching for Izzy. Forced. When the game ends, if searching for Izzy is in play, Jenny Barnes suffers 1 mental trauma. Now, all trauma is in this game is basically starting damage or sanity that you have going into a scenario. So, for example, let's say Jenny actually draws searching for Izzy, which is very possible in a scenario. If we end up leaving that in play because we can't deal with it for whatever reason, she'll take a mental trauma from that, which means she'll start the next scenario with one sanity damage on her. So that's all trauma is. That'll do it for the investigators. Now let's go back up top to wrap this video up. And we're back up top with our 4 investigators one last time. Over the next couple weeks we'll get this campaign started, but I'm also going to play some other games in between this campaign to keep things fresh a little bit. In the immediate future, hopefully you'll stick around for next week as Lola and Harvey are up first as they go beyond the gates of sleep to descend into the Dreamlands. Thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you'll give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on YouTube for live streaming. Links will be in the description down below. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourself and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Take care, everyone.